right, hello and welcome to Illini Drive, WPGU 1071. Again, still in the Urbana Public Television studios because we're working on getting that WPGU studio. I'll try to keep you guys as up to date as possible with how soon that comes back, but still a lot of damage done, still a lot to repair, and we're a student-run radio station, so not a lot of money that we can expense that direction. Looking for some help any ways that we can get. So still be a while until that WPGU studio is up and running. And again, I'm going to apologize for the lateness of this Illini Drive because Monday we had inclement weather. Not everybody had a way of getting transportation here. The buses were having a hard time running. Cars were sliding all over the place. Just with how far and with the other studio being down, it was just going to be too much of a hassle to get that figured out then. And then with all the weather, a lot of city meetings then got scheduled here in the city council building. So kind of ran into not being able to do a Tuesday show. So after one of the biggest weekends in Illini sports, we were unfortunately not able to do shows Monday or Tuesday, but here we are, Wednesday, November 13th, with plenty to talk about. Before we get into it, guys, your weekends, what's been going on? Checking in with you guys. What's up?
I went home.
Yep, I did too.
Went home, got to see for the first time in a long time, I actually got to sit and enjoy Illini sports in the comfort of my own home without having to work. So that was nice.
Jake?
It just feels like it's been forever since we've been here.
It does feel like it.
Feels like a long time.
Anything new in your life since then?
I mean, we're going to talk about it today, so.
Have you ever been able to come up with that last $5 that you owe me?
Oh, I forgot about that.
I have. Feels like the good old days of this crew and then Tommy's random sicknesses or illnesses that keep him out of the studio, and us three running the show because Brendan, unfortunately, not able to make it today. He's covering the women's basketball game tonight, and the dedicated journalist that he is there early and making sure that he's doing nothing but the best stuff. But getting right into it, like I said, biggest weekend in Illinois sports probably in the last decade. Probably
of this decade, maybe.
I mean, even in the last decade. When has Illinois had a bigger weekend?
But I'm saying the decade is about to end.
True.
So that makes sense.
That's fair, yeah. But
regardless, did you see the tweets, Nathan?
Regardless, it's a huge weekend. Illinois football bowl eligible for the first time under Lovie Smith and for the first time since 2014 after the biggest comeback in program history. Illinois 37, Michigan State 34. Michigan State led 28-3 right before the second half started. Illinois scored literally as the clock hit 0 for the second half on a beautiful Josh Inamore-Bebe 46-yard touchdown pass from Brandon Peters. And just to relive it, I literally screenshotted the way that the game went down just to relive it. Elijah Collins has a touchdown run for Michigan State in the first half. James McCourt hits a field goal. Brian, the rookie, who the whole time I kept thinking they were saying the rookie because the last name just sounds similarly. And then Michigan State eventually goes up 28-3 on Elijah Collins' touchdown run and also a Trey Mosley touchdown pass. And then, like I mentioned, Inamore-Bebe's 46-yard touchdown pass from Brandon Peters makes it 10-28 at halftime. Third quarter, not a lot of scoring. Illinois' defense able to sort of hunker down. Michigan State's defense looked really strong at that point. Illinois really not able to get anything going on the ground. In the third quarter, there was a 23-yard field goal for Michigan State to make it 31. Michigan State 31, Illinois 10. And with 50 seconds remaining in the third quarter, ESPN had Michigan State with a 99.6% chance to win. But then the fourth quarter happened. Josh Inamore-Bebe with an 83-yard touchdown pass from Brandon Peters on Illinois' first drive in the fourth quarter. Then Illinois comes back, puts together a nice 5-play, 53-yard drive capped off by a Reggie Corbin 6-yard touchdown run. Scores now 24-31. Illinois has a shot. And on the ensuing Michigan State offensive drive, Sidney Brown returns a 76-yard interception all the way to the house, and James McCourt misses the point after, which was just I think that was the moment that everybody was like, "Oh my goodness!" We're all the way back, and then we can't even tie the game back up. Michigan State hunkers down, 5-play, 47-yard drive, hits a field goal with 1 minute and 36 seconds left, and big man on campus, Brandon Peters, gets the ball back in his hands, puts together a 13-play, 75-yard drive, and goes all the way. Gets onto the goal line, 4 plays, doesn't convert on fourth down, gets a pass interference call that extends Illinois' drive and saves, their opportunity here, and then few plays later, rolls out to his right, defense looking around, the corner loses Daniel Barker, and Peters finds him in the back of the end zone. Touchdown, Illinois, 5 seconds remaining. McCourt hits the extra point, Game over on when they try to return the kick. 37-34. Illinois wins. Illinois 6-4. Illinois going bowling. Illinois completing the largest comeback in program history. Illini entered this bye week on a 4-game win streak. Guys, holy crap.
It's wild. It's a wild place to be for Illinois football. Like, just how these events have transpired from 2-4 to now 6-4, from Lovie Smith being the likeliest coach in college football probably to be fired, to now job is completely safe. Extension looks like it was the most genius move ever. And even like in that Michigan State game, like it just had the feel of like even on the 4th and 16, like it had that feeling of like, okay, like Michigan State is due to slip up at some point, and then they did with the penalty. Like, I don't know, at the 4th and 16, I just felt like something was going to happen that would give Illinois another chance, whether that be a completion or whether that be a penalty or something, which ended up happening. It was just it was a weird game. It was a very much tale of two halves, essentially. And, I mean, I'm almost happy it happened that way because, you know, Illinois still showed you they can bring you to incredible lows, but then they bring you back up, and now you're on a 4-game win streak.
Yeah,
that was nuts. I mean, like Jake said, to crawl out of the deepest depths of college football and to now just go bowling, it's nuts. I mean, I never thought we would be here. I honestly thought we were going to lose this game at one point, and you know,
we all did,
and it was called.
I mean,
halftime.
right. I mean, but even before, and like you guys flipped me over. I was going to say we lose this game regardless before the game even started, and
now look how smart you look.
Alex was so mad in the group chat in the first
I was like,
halftime.
man, I was like, I knew it. I was right. I was like, I should have trusted my gut. And then this happened. So it's just so refreshing to see, like, Illini sports do good.
Be wrong. You're happy to be wrong.
Yeah, man. It's great, dude.
It's not even just the being good, it's the improbable. It's like getting to be a part, getting to have some stake in the game of just the crazy comebacks and of just the insane plays and the top 10 highlights and that sort of thing. I mean, Illinois, regardless of not going bowling and having sort of that a hard time of rebuilding football and then even basketball, you know, it's not quite getting there. I mean, to have this football team remind you of how much fun college football can be when it's your team that's doing it. I mean, Illinois was in the topic of the ESPN like week recap. Yeah. They talked about LSU's big win, Minnesota proving they're the real deal, and like a crazy Illinois comeback. And like there are 3 mentions in like the subject line of an ESPN article recapping a crazy week 11. Yeah. And you know, when was the last time that was the case? I mean, Rose Bowl year or something of the likes. Probably when we were getting votes as a 6-0 team that ended up going 6-6, but then beating UCLA in the Kraft Fight Hunger Bowl. Jake, you brought it up, the 4th and 16 catch from Josh Bebe. He had a phenomenal. Not only is it nuts because it was Brandon Peters just saying, "I'm trusting my guy." Bebe gets the inside on his you know, the coverage cornerback, and then still able to go up, grab the ball before the hit by the safety and just like bring it down, keeps that Illinois drive alive, and then again the foul on the 4th down. Bebe, 4 receptions, 178 yards, 2 touchdowns in the game. He was Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week.
It's crazy that Michigan State let that happen. Like,
yeah,
and Bebe has been doing this all year, where he goes up and gets a jump ball right at the point and comes down with it. And they had him doubled, I think.
On that play, they had a single coverage where they had a high safety to watch.
I don't know if the safety slipped or what happened there. Like, if Josh Bebe burns you like that and beats you like that, like that's something you're like, okay, we should have been on that. Like, you're kicking yourself over that. If Caleb Reams or Danny Navarro beats you, like, you're like, okay, what are you going to do? Like, we weren't expecting that. That's a good play. But you got to know, like, they're 4th and 16. Brandon Peters has been looking for Bebe in those big times, in those big moments, all year long. Yep. And, I mean, that's why D'Antonio's like, I don't know, I'm going to live with that for the rest of my life now. Yeah, as he should.
You talked about you don't know what the safety's doing, and it's something that sticks with you. D'Antoni says this game's going to stick with him for the rest of his life. So, Bebe, impressive game. Reggie Corbin, good to see him get back on the score sheet. 7 carries, 29 yards.
And a catch.
And a catch. Look what happens when Reggie Corbin gets involved in the passing game. I was thrilled. I forgot that was this game that it finally happened. Look what happened. I mean, we got that touchdown in the second quarter. Or when that was 4th quarter, I believe. 7 carries, 29 yards, a touchdown. Brandon Peters, an impressive game, 22 for 42, 369 yards, 3 touchdowns, threw 1 pick, stepped up in the big moments. Brandon Peters, that's a Big Ten quarterback right there. For all the doubters, that's a Big Ten quarterback.
He's been doing that all year, though. In the big moments, he makes the good throws. And, I mean, a lot of those even, like, you can say, oh, well, he's just been throwing it up and Josh Matterbaby has been there. He really hasn't. Like, a lot of those throws, Peters, especially the throw to Barker to win it, that was a strike. I mean, granted, Barker was by himself, but still, that was a well-placed ball, like, on the money, like, on a line with zip.
Like,
and
if he dropped that was...
Right.
That
I mean, there were a lot of throws like that, though, that Peters had all day, especially in that comeback effort. So
Your boy Reggie Corbin.
I know.
I got it. Like, that's just...
we just said that.
I know, dude. I'm sorry. I was just like, I'm just doing stuff on my computer.
Speaking of the Barker throw, something that I don't think people are giving Peters credit for is looking off that defender. I mean, he continued to look as if that route went all the way to the line, or maybe because he transitioned his eyes to the other receiver that was on the sideline and the safety pulled down to try to help. But that's Peters being composed while moving to his right, running away from the pressure that he has. Granted, Illinois, played that entire half of the field, and that's just where everything was. But in that cluttered end zone, to be able to find that and then deliver that strike, composure all there. And it wasn't just like he was throwing it up to Inamorbebe. Danny Navarro had more receptions than Inamorbebe in this game. And then outside of that, Navarro had 7 for 49 yards. So a short option, but still. And then outside of that, extremely well distributed. Justice Williams, 2 catches. Caleb Reeves, 2 catches. Reggie Corbin, 2 catches. Daniel Barker, 2 catches. Dre Brown, 2 catches. And Casey Washington with a catch. So 22 completions. That's the first time that we've seen Peters do that in a while. I mean, the way that you have been able to beat Rutgers, Purdue, and then the way that you were succeeding offensively against Wisconsin, Peters hasn't thrown the ball, this much against a defense, for a month, more than that. So for him to do it, I mean, we talked about that as one of the keys is, the passing offenses, because we know Michigan State, we know the rookie was good enough that he was going to be able to figure things out. He goes 19 for 36, 251 yards, touchdown, but he had 3 picks because, and I think this is the story of the game, is Illinois' defense. And that's, I think, what even saves Lovie Smith's job more than anything, is that when he was, 2-4, and when the defense was getting trounced by a Minnesota team that now doesn't look like a bad loss at all. They just knocked off Penn State and are in the college football playoff,
conversation.
Exactly. You're only you're kicking yourself for Eastern Michigan and Nebraska, but at the same time, you think back to that 2-4 team and how Lovie Smith, we haven't seen anything from the defense, and you took sole responsibility for this defense, and him not changing anything, believing in quote-unquote Lovie ball and turning the ball over. They're a bend, don't break defense. They let up a lot of yards. It's true. Teams are going to drive on Illinois, and they're probably going to win the time of possession. I'm not sure if Michigan State did in this game or not, but
I would imagine they did.
The other teams are going to run and pass, and they're going to get yards, but Illinois defense, 10 interceptions, 17 forced fumbles. They have the most turnovers in the nation. They've got the most defensive touchdowns in the nation. They're playing out of their minds, and you know what's crazy is this isn't all what like last year, one-man show. This isn't just Jake Hansen.
Yeah.
Daley Harding is shining.
Yep.
121 tackles, 3 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, 2 touchdowns. One of those a fumble recovery, and one of them an interception return. He has looked magnificent. He's only a junior. Hansen and Harding both back next year. And you saw what those, and Hansen didn't even play this game. So Harding had to step up, especially after Milo Eifler goes down, after foolishly hitting a player on Michigan State's first touchdown. You could argue, whether or not he should have been, kicked out for that, because it did kind of look a little just like a get out of my face. The guy was stepping on him,
right? But
also looked like a potential punch to the groin. And Eifler wasn't happy about it either, but. Regardless,
started tweeting immediately.
Yeah, that's a red flag. Like, just get off.
Yeah,
don't do that.
Just log off.
Daley Harding though steps up when they need him to. You got inexperienced guys next to you. You're the leadership there. You've been playing like this all year, and he continues to. I don't even know what to say to this defense. I want to know what you guys are thoughts on this defense right now, because all of a sudden this Illinois defense doesn't make me feel like Illinois gets out of games.
A lot of Illinois' defense and their progression into being a good unit again has been the safety play. Stanley Green has been good. I mean, he hasn't made like the splash plays. He's made a couple here and there, but he hasn't been like a star. Mm-hmm. But he's been solid. He does what you ask him to do, and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes, which is good. It's exactly what you want, especially from a safety. But Sidney Brown too, who obviously had that pick 6, but Sidney Brown's been really good. He struggled early, but that was because he was dealing with some injuries, had to knock some rust off. But he's been really, really solid, especially in the last 4 games. And him being back and playing well has allowed Tony Adams to move to corner where he's more natural, more fluid, and he can play a lot better. I mean, he said himself that he thinks too much when he's at safety. So moving him to corner has been awesome. And then, I mean, the defensive line, Isaiah Gay's shown flashes. So that, like we said on the show a couple weeks ago, that you hadn't seen since his freshman year, really. It's really stepped up with Batiku out. Hasan, even with the loss of him, Harding steps up, is awesome. So it's just they've all really come together, and people have started playing their best football at the right time.
And I think you missed even maybe the most important piece in Jamal Milan.
Yes.
And the way that he has stepped up as a defensive tackle. They don't get the glory that the edge rushers get with the sack numbers and being able to get more one-on-ones and whatnot. But, I mean, in this game, he's got 4 tackles, 1 solo, and a tackle and a half for loss. I mean,
he's the anchor.
He bothered people. Taylor Harding had 2 tackles for loss in this game. 14 tackles, 5 of them solo. Illinois didn't sack Michigan State 1 time, and I think that speaks a lot to the rookie's movement and how mobile he is. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but that kid looks like he's going to get a lot of NFL attention.
Yeah,
I mean,
he was good.
He was really good, and that's with I think 2 more years of eligibility. He is going. I mean, this is like Michigan State. The way that they looked at the beginning of this year, and obviously now they're on this 4-game losing stretch. I mean, they run into a buzzsaw red-hot Illini team, and then obviously 3 top 10 ranked teams. But the Michigan State offense, you can see that's sort of what D'Antoni expected, and what he's brought in for, and Michigan State is on the up and up, and they're they shouldn't be counted out just yet, and this is a very good win for the Illini. But yeah, I just don't think that you can count out Michigan State because of their 4-5 record and how they maybe looked of late. Because I mean, we watched that game; those are 2 very competitive teams, and with Illinois playing at its absolute best, took them everything they had to beat this Michigan State team.
Pretty good.
Illinois gets 1 AP vote for the top 25.
You'll have to see it.
It's definitely some Homer Champaign News Gazette writer that has an AP vote that threw him a bone.
I mean, the Athletic had them at like number 44 or something like that.
I think they're top 50 right now.
Yeah,
I think you have to
At
put
this
credit.
point,
You have to put credit on a really impressive win against Wisconsin, and then you go on the road and have a comeback win against Michigan State like this. You've now won 4 in a row. You look like a really, really good team. As I mentioned earlier, Illinois enters a bye week this week, so plenty of time for guys to get healthy, guys like Jake Hansen, and plenty of time for Lovey to focus on some problem areas. Try to get this rushing attack going again because really wasn't that. I mean, 36 total yards rushing on the ground in this game. I mean, Reggie Corbin 7 carries, 29 yards. Dre Brown 9 carries, 19 yards. I think they eventually figured out it was just the passing offense that was working.
Well, also you had to pass a lot because you were down.
That's true.
So, I mean, you had to throw the ball.
That's true. But I liked the way that Rod Smith was able to dial up. I know I preached a little bit about it, but finding Reggie Corbin and finding Dre Brown and using the running backs in the passing game, I think we've seen sort of a revolution of that recently in like the NFL and the way that they have passing backs and running backs, and then also being able to use some of those packages and find ways to get running backs and favorable matchups out wide. I think Rod Smith is sort of maybe experimented with that a little bit. I love the play call when they went to Reggie because they did a play action where they faked it to him, rolled everything to the right while Corbin ran a wheel route the opposite way, and then easy pass for Peters to make, ends up going for I think 16, 18, whatever it was yards, and it was just a nice like hidden pattern. And for a guy that they probably when they were scouting said, oh, they never throw to this guy,
right?
And then
Zero catches,
and then he's able to have 2 receptions, 28 yards. So yeah, Illinois bye is it'll be good for the team. I also worry though. We've seen teams stumble out of bye, especially when
we've seen this team stumble out of a bye.
Against Minnesota. But they've got Iowa who faces Minnesota this weekend. But that's what I kind of like about this bye is that Iowa is really going to focus on knocking off Minnesota. There's something about taking an undefeated team and bringing them back down to the ranks of a team that can lose games. And I think Iowa's going to put a lot of effort into Minnesota this week, and then might come off that week and be like, this Illinois team, it is what it is.
I don't think anyone's saying that anymore.
Okay.
I mean, you're on a 4-game win streak. I mean, one of the teams you beat is Rutgers, but you just beat Wisconsin, you just beat Purdue, you just beat Michigan State, who, aren't what they were last year, but, I mean, Wisconsin is still Wisconsin, they're still ranked, they're still good, but as far as Purdue and Michigan State, they aren't what they were last year or maybe previous years, but those are still good teams, and no one's just disregarding Illinois anymore.
I guess I just think maybe it's an aspect of Iowa, putting a pin on this game and saying really gearing up for Minnesota,
right?
And then just a less of preparation coming back and thinking, regardless of how good Illinois has been playing, of just them sort of, we're the better team, we're the ranked team, or at least they are right now, sort of vibe. If they beat Minnesota, I think Illinois is a trap game. I'll put it like that.
Fair. I don't think that'll happen, but
we'll see.
Minnesota looks pretty good.
Yeah, they do. Moving on to basketball, Illinois basketball has a weekend road trip out west. They go to Phoenix, Arizona for their game against the Grand Canyon University, and then Tucson, Arizona for the game against Arizona. A one-on-one weekend. Illini beat GCU, the Antelopes. I love that mascot. 83-71. Andre Feliz with another strong game and plays closer at the end of the game with a sweet move and able to get to the hole and then the tongue out afterwards. That was awesome. I was trying to find a picture of Andres Feliz sticking his tongue out at the defender to make like my cover photo on Twitter. I loved it. It was so arrogant. It was him doing his little it's like double John Wall thing that he does after he gets a bucket and just sticking his tongue out at the guy like, come get us. I love that attitude. I love the way that they were able to close out a game. Really tough environment to play in. Alex, you and I were talking about it. Credit to Grand Canyon. Their stream was phenomenal.
Oh my God.
It was like that's
so good.
As journalism kids, you look at that and you're like, look at this is well done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So credit to Grand Canyon. Tough, like I said, tough environment to play in, and this group able to close it out convincingly. Then they turn around on Sunday and they got a game against Arizona. They drop that game 90-69. Nico Mannion is annoyingly good. He was just getting whatever he wanted. His floater was filthy. He had 9 assists, able to distribute. I mean, just a really, really good game from him. So, and Illinois didn't have an answer as well as Io played and as well as Andres played and even Trent lit it up, especially in that first half. What did we learn about this team from this weekend? Because I've got a few notes. I feel some ways about how this team's been playing because I think there's positives, but there's also some holes.
The way that we feel about this Illinois team, I think, is still really positive. You still feel really good. You feel awesome about Kofi. He's been great. He's been really, really awesome. He was fantastic in the Grand Canyon game. But there's still some issues. And, you stuck with Arizona for a whole half, and you were down by 1 point at the half, and you thought, all right, this is a chance you can take this team. Like, there's been some runs by each team. You really have an opportunity here. And then Illinois just comes out really flat, can't get anything going in the second half. Meanwhile, Arizona has everything going in the second half, and you just completely fall apart. You end up getting blown out, which you never like to see. But with this team, I think that the things that you worry about are fixable. The turnovers and the turnover rate are fixable. I mean, I think the treadmills and oven are getting a lot of work, especially following that game, and now you have a lot to work on. The inbounds was ugly, but those are things you can work on. The one thing that does worry me that you can't really work on, you can try to work on, but it's not easily fixable, is Georgie's role on this team. Because he clearly is struggling with what his role is going to be now with Kofi as the lead front court guy and the lead defensive guy and especially the lead offensive guy down low. I think Georgie is still figuring that out, but it needs to be figured out faster because you still have tough games coming up. I mean, Hawaii's no slouch. Old Dominion isn't a slouch. You have Maryland and Michigan coming up in like a month, and then you have Mizzou.
And Miami in the Big Ten ACC Challenge.
Yes, that I completely forgot about that. So you have these tough games. You got to figure it out, and you got to figure out what rotations you want to use for what matchups. Because we all like the Andres Feliz and Trent Frazier and Io pairing, but you just can't do that because then your bench suffers. So you have to figure out if you want to go with Alan Griffin or you want to go with Benjamin Boesmans-Verdonk, even though he didn't look great, but he still has shown flashes. You got to figure out something because you can't keep playing DeMonte and Kipper together because that's just a black hole. There's nothing happening there. Other than defense a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was kind of going to touch on that mostly, just sort of, I guess, having that true wing player is what they're kind of suffering from. I mean, granted, like you said, Jake, that lineup of Feliz, DeSumo, and Frazier, it's nice. But then when you come up to that bench, I mean, Alan Griffin, you kind of get some points from him. I mean, I think it's still too early in the season to say whether or not or how much he's going to contribute off the bench. I mean, 6 points, whatever it is, what it is. But then you look at a guy like Kip, who's plays like, 18, 20 minutes?
Yeah.
And dude has 4 points?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to go
just-
down.
better.
As the I mean, it has. I mean, it's the same thing that happened last year when Kipper was starting and he was playing 25, 30 minutes a game, and it started slowly going down and down and down until he started getting 1 minute a game, 2 minutes a game. So, I mean, that leash has to be shorter this year for obvious reasons, but there's some things that need to be figured out. I mean, just fix the turnovers, though. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can't be turning it over and allowing that many points off turnovers because you're going to lose that way.
Yep. I mean, turnovers by the numbers: 23 against Nicholls State, 17 against Grand Canyon, 22 against Arizona. That is, crazy high. I think as a college basketball team, you try to keep turnovers under probably, I think, 12 to 14. That's like a realistic like number, maybe 15, 16. I mean, maybe so.
Not give up 10 in the first half. I mean,
Yeah, not what you've seen so far. I agree. The thing with Georgie, the case for Georgie Bishanovili is he was a developing player when he started out as a freshman here at U of I. I mean, we were barely talking about him at this point last year. 3 games in, you've seen him a little bit, and he's shown flashes, and he's got a nice little,
he was just
blind
there.
hook
He was
shot.
Just kind of there.
He was
I
just.
think
the Georgia
Tommy
recruit.
said it. I think Tommy said it on our basketball preview show. He was like, "You don't know what you're going to get from Georgie. He might not even play that much until conference play, if then, and late in the season, and then he was starting day one."
Yeah. I think here's the way that I look at it. I've absolutely loved what I've seen from Andres Feliz so far. I mean, he had a double-double against Nicholls, a double-double against Arizona with 13 points, 10 rebounds. And he had 21 points against Grand Canyon. He didn't need to, be the guy getting the rebounds and getting the assists in that game because he was the scoring option, even though Kofi ended up with more points because you were able to get down low against Grand Canyon. Feliz has looked great. Kofi, I'm impressed with. I still think there's aspects. He still needs to be that bigger, stronger guy. There's a few rebounds and passes into the post that I think that he needs to go towards. It's an
Be
old
more aggressive.
Yeah, it's an old adage for soccer players of win 50-50 balls. When it's unsure and either person could grab it, you need Kofi to start really just saying, mine. Really get a little bit more aggressive in that
Definitely.
nature. But his lack of aggressiveness has also paid off in the fact that he doesn't foul a lot. Illinois ran into foul trouble in the game against Arizona. Georgie fouls out with 5. Belize, DeSumo, Frazier, and Kipper all had 3. And so you sort of had to see some more Kipper and some more DeMonte Williams because of the foul trouble they were getting in. Kofi had 1 the whole game. For being that big man, plays 29 minutes, and everything that Arizona was throwing at him, he doesn't foul a lot, which I think that's sort of a trade-off. I think that's a trade-off that I'm willing to make, though, to see, Kofi get a few more boards. And I think it's why, that's the thing that Feliz has that really separates himself when he's on the court is his aggressiveness on those loose balls, 50-50 balls, that sort of thing. You guys touched on it. Georgie hasn't looked great. I think one thing that you found out about this team is they can go on the road and win games. I think the Grand Canyon, the way that they closed out Grand Canyon really speaks a lot to, how this team is going to play on the road. Arizona, is right now the 21st ranked team, but with that trio of freshmen that went off in this game, I mean, you really got to give credit to, Mannion and Green, their names are escaping me right now. Green and the number 22, the big kid.
Big kid.
But I mean, they played well. They were the big reason that Illinois wins that game, or that Arizona wins that game. I wouldn't be surprised if they just continue to go up in the rankings. I think that this is a very complete Arizona team, especially since they have that youth as well as the guys that transfer.
Zeke
Najee.
Najee, there you go.
He's one of the freshmen. Mannion.
Freaking Mannion. When I saw him, I was just like, why does that name look so familiar? And then I saw him, I was like, that guy.
You saw his hoop mixtape. He's got some filthy highlights from it when he was in high school. Yeah. He's annoyingly good. If you guys don't mind, a little bit about the Grand Canyon game, sort of just what you saw, what you're taking away from it. Are you guys feeling as good as I am about Illinois coming away from this with a win? Because Grand Canyon doesn't look like a lot, but it felt like a big win in a way.
Grand Canyon's always a tough place to play. I mean, they're known across the country as
Nunez was there, man.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Of
course it is.
It's known nationally as a tough place to go into and win. You've seen their hype videos. You've seen their the highlights of their fan section.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a tough place to go, and Illinois went in there and took care of business. So I am happy with that game, and I think Kofi was an absolute terror in that game.
Oh yeah, they just could not handle him. And I think for me, it wasn't that it was a big game, but it was just nice to see them play. I almost said 4 quarters, 2 halves very well, just an all around just solid game, solid outing. I loved to see Andres Feliz just kind of take over. Like we said, late in the game and to, ice the game. I think it's good to see that from one of your vets on this team, to see that, already at the beginning of the season. I think just overall, it was just a very comforting win.
Yeah.
It was a game you were supposed to win, and they won it handily.
Yeah. And then moving to the Arizona game, you stuck with them for a half. You had the lead with 30 seconds left in the first half, and then Hazard hits that 3-pointer at the end. So Arizona's up by 1.5. Illinois, comes out a little flat, goes on a little bit of run, and then the big thing that stopped was, at one point it was 52-53, Arizona with a 1-point lead. Next thing you knew, it was 52-68. And Illinois didn't score again until a Georgie Bishanovsvili made free throw. That was a stretch of about 5 minutes, a little bit less, that Illinois went scoreless, and Arizona was just getting whatever they wanted. I mean, Jake, you brought it up. When the bench is on the floor, there needs to be a starter and integrated there. And I think right now the only bench scoring you're really getting is Alan Griffin,
Right.
which is almost why I kind of like Alan Griffin in the starting lineup and Feliz, on the bench, because then you can sort of rotate in and find units that work well together and can maybe find some fluent scoring options, in your starting lineup, as well as Feliz coming off the bench, Bozeman for dunk that comes off the bench. I think that the lineup you're seeing right now, though, is the lineup that closes out games. When Illinois has a tight game, and and you don't really need to sub anymore, or you're not really looking to sub anymore. That's, I think, what you're going to consistently see with Trent, Ayo, Andres, Georgie, and Kofi. The Arizona game, ends up being a 21-point game. It didn't feel that far apart, except it really did at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a weird sort of just Illinois felt in it the whole time, and then they just they go on this huge scoring drought, and then Illinois is able to make it almost a 10-point game, and then Arizona just kept them at bay, and then they just really took over with about 2 or 3 minutes left. So disappointing result on that end, but You played a really good team, and you played them pretty tough, and you have a week off to fix the mistakes like you talked about. Illinois next in action at home against Hawaii on the 18th. Make sure to come. I mean, they're home for a while then. They got Hawaii on the 18th.
They got the Citadel.
They got the Citadel on the 20th.
The Citadel.
Which Alex is excited for. They got Hampton on the 23rd. They got, looks like it's Lindenwood. The Lindenwood Lions on the was that the 20th? No, excuse me, the 14th, or I'm all over the place. The November 26th. Then the Big Ten ACC Challenge. Miami comes to town on ESPN2, but make sure you attend that game. 6 p.m., December 2nd. That's going to be a big game. That's going to be, I think, Illinois' next sort of benchmark test. Because then you go into conference play with not the full schedule of conference play, but back-to-back games and a road game to start that whole thing off against number 7 Maryland right now. So Illinois basketball, I mean, we talked about it. We made our predictions before the season really got going. Jake said 23-8. I said 22-9. Brendan said 21-10. Alex said 20-11. Arizona is one of those matchups that you looked at and you said this could go either way. Mm-hmm. If you felt really good, you think Illinois is winning that game. But I still think that most of their games are winnable. And when you play a ranked team, you're not going to really know how Illinois does against ranked teams until the season sort of plays out and you learn who really deserves that ranking and where they deserve to be ranked, and maybe who is ranked too high. And
I will say, I think by the time the season's over, Arizona's going to be a top 10 team. They look incredible.
I think at minimum top 15 because they did look really good, and Arizona's going to be a really hard place to play for teams that go in there too. So moving on, going on to a little bit of a more national stage, I want to talk about the NFL because we had an NFL weekend. Both of our teams ended up in the victory column, and I wanted to do sort of a state of the NFL address. So let's talk a little bit about the NFC North and how each of our teams played this weekend. Then I want to talk about one other big game, that 49ers-Seahawks game that we watched. What a good Monday night game.
That was good.
Finally.
Monday Night Football has really taken a downturn since Sunday night started flexing all of their good Sunday matchups. So that, Monday Night Football sets their schedule early in the season, and they don't know how things are going to turn out. Now, and that game ended up being, a matchup between two heavyweights. But let's start first. Bears beat the Lions. Jeff Driscoll under center for the Lions, so it seemed like it should be a Bears win. Made it a little close at the end, but for the most part, the Bears controlled that game. You guys, bear down, back in the win column after a long time. How's it feel?
It feels good. I will say there were some steps taken forward as far as the offense goes, which you like to see. But we finally saw that when the Bears' offense is doing anything, literally just being productive, the defense just feeds off it. Like, you saw the defense finally looking motivated again, finally feeling like they weren't doing all of the heavy lifting here. Mm-hmm. And that was off just 3 scoring drives led by Mitch Trubisky. Now, on the topic of Mitch Trubisky, I will say that he didn't look amazing. It wasn't a perfect game.
No.
He had some really, really good drives that looked incredible and made you think, all right, he's turning a corner maybe. But then he made some throws that were not that, and that made you feel like that wasn't what you wanted. So there's still some things to work on, but I like that there was a step in the right direction. Nagy still wasn't calling as aggressive of a game as I wanted at the end, as you would like. It seems like he got scared again, kind of rolled it back.
And when they were aggressive, though?
When they were aggressive, it worked.
Like last year.
And that's why everyone's saying, run the 4-minute offense all the time. Because when you're quick and when you're moving, the defense is going to be ready. And that's when Trubisky's best, when he's improvising. And it sounds crazy to say that he's at his best when he's improvising, and arguably at his worst when you've got these very structured plays. But that's just the fact of the matter at this point, and you got to run with it. You got to make that work, because you have a stretch coming up where, some of these teams that you thought you were going to play that were going to be really tough don't look as invincible as they once did. The Rams look terrible.
Yeah.
The Rams are coming up. Their offense can barely do anything at all. The Giants are the Giants. The Lions, you just beat them. The Cowboys look beatable. They have flaws. The Packers, that's going to be tough. I'm not really looking forward to that. The Chiefs will have Mahomes back, so that's great. But you have 4 games coming up where
winnable.
You have a real chance to win some games, and then you're back at 9-5, I think.
If you win, the next
win the next 4.
Next 4, you'd be 8-5.
8-5, and then going into the Packers game. So you have a chance here.
Yeah.
Do it. You take what you did.
Do it.
Take what you learned from this game, which is not use Trey Burton and use Ben Braunecker, because he's clearly your best tight end, even though he had 1 catch.
Throw to Ben Braunecker by Trubisky, phenomenal.
Yeah, great.
Say something nice about Mitch Trubisky, phenomenal.
Great. Yeah, I mean, he had a couple really nice throws, but he still had some of those head-scratching ones. So it's good, but I want to continue seeing this progression.
Yep. Trubisky fumbles the ball and recovers it, but other than that, I mean, I think it's. I mean, a lot of people like. I have a friend who the way that he knows football is because he plays fantasy football, and so then he tries to act like he knows everything about all the teams, and so he'll give me beef about like Rodgers slowing down or whatnot. Mitch Trubisky's passing line looks like an Aaron Rodgers passing line. 6 for 23, 173 yards, 3 touchdowns. Not doing a lot. Not, going out there and filling up the stat sheets with yards and throwing the ball 50 times a game, but completing the throws. I mean, what that completion percentage right there, 16 for 23. Mm-hmm. That's some 60, 70%
need him to do.
That's what you're asking for. So
it's a minimum. Like the bar is at the floor. It's not hard to get over.
We just need you to play average, and you're good, bro.
Yeah. Alex, any other thoughts about this game?
No, I mean, Jay kind of touched on everything. I think my big thing was...
I went on a rant, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But no, honestly, my big thing was just this offense, just to see them play decent. This is the type of offense that doesn't need to play well because you have such a great defense. They only give up 13 points against the Lions. I think, dating back to like 20... I mean, last season, like the Bears have given up like the least amount of touchdowns or something like that, or least amount of points. Mm-hmm. I don't know, some stat like that. So, I mean, this defense is still good enough where... Hey, as long as you're playing just a decent offense, you can win ball games because that defense is still going to play well and hold teams to 20 points a game.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. I think this was the biggest game in the NFC picture because the Lions are now pretty much out of it.
Yeah,
I mean, they're going to have a hard time beating the Bears the second time around. Right. They're going to have a hard time beating the Vikings, and
meanwhile the Bears stay alive.
And the Bears stay alive. But I think a big game for the NFC playoff picture was that Vikings game. Vikings beat the Cowboys. Vikings are what is it again? 7-3, and they're a wild card right now. I mean, looking at the NFC playoff picture right now, it is the Niners, the Packers, the Saints, and the Cowboys all as their division winners. Then the Seahawks are 8-2, the Vikings are 7-3, and then you have you have the Rams, Eagles, Panthers, and Bears at 5-4, and the Bears at 4-5. I'm gonna throw them in there because the defense keeps them in every game that they play, right. And as you just brought up, a winnable schedule upcoming, so they very well could be something like 8-5, 7-6, whatever it is, still in that hunt. The problem is that separation from right. wild card team to the rest of the teams in the hunt.
So that's the Packers play the Vikings again?
Yeah, they play the Vikings in Minnesota.
So that's going to be huge because the Bears play the Vikings again in Minnesota in the last week of the season.
Yeah.
That's going to be what I think makes it this whole thing, especially for the Bears, because the Bears already beat the Vikings once, and hopefully by that time the Bears look like an offense again. But this NFC picture is so cluttered, and it's really, really fun.
Yeah. The Packers the end of the Packers schedule is what is going to be wild because they go at Niners, which I'm loving. They got flexed to NBC, not this week, but next week, Sunday Night Football. Yes. That's going to be a crazy awesome game.
Yep. Yeah.
Then they've got 2 walkover games at Giants, home against the Redskins, and final 3 games, Bears, Vikings, Lions. So they run through the NFC at the very end of their schedule the same way they did at the front of their schedule, and so that's going to be a very hectic time, and the Bears is the only game that they get at home. They go at Vikings, at Lions to end the year. That at Lions, I love that at Lions instead of again the Vikings on the last week because the Lions are beatable and they might not be playing for anything other than draft position at that point. But I wanted to look at the playoffs as a whole and check in on every single division. So obviously we sort of did the NFC North, but I want to just go sort of through it with you guys. NFC North right now, Packers 8-2, Vikings 7-3, Bears 4-5, Lions 3-5-1. Lions are the only team that's really out of this.
Agreed.
I don't think the Bears have a shot at the title. At the division title anymore. I think they have to be getting the wild card. I'm not saying Packers or Vikings for that title because I'm not saying that the Bears, I'm not saying that the Packers could, fall off and they lose those divisional games at the end of the year. And if the Bears get hot, they could come up and fight for that position. But it's going to take the Packers or Vikings to lose some games they shouldn't before sort of the conference comes back, the division comes back around to play with them. We'll also talk about sort of the top heavy division too, and that's the NFC West. The Niners are 8-1. The Seahawks are 8-2. I want to talk about that game because what an awesome Monday Night Football game. What an Illini-centric Monday Night Football game. Not only do we have Chase McLaughlin hitting field goals for the 49ers, but you have the play of the game when Russell Wilson scrambles around, gets away from pressure, rolls to his right, and finds none other than Malik Turner to convert on a 3rd down. He puts a nice spin move on to get that extra yardage and then eventually gets out of bounds. That was awesome. Cool to see the Illini do it on the prime time. What a crazy awesome game. How quickly the announcers were to forget that Chase McLaughlin hits the field goal that puts him to overtime to try to call the overtime kick. He was too big. The moment was too big. Yeah. He's a rookie kicker, and he just shanked a kick that he hit it wrong, and it flies in the tunnel instead of through the uprights.
Well, the snap and hold wasn't great.
They weren't, but...
I mean, still, you have one job, but kicking is such a very detail-specific job. So, when one thing's off...
everything's off.
Yeah. I just think that, the snap and hold weren't great. I think... hitting that kick and not hitting that kick is what's going to either keep him out of the NFL or get him a job. Is that when the snap and holds aren't great, obviously it's so specific, but also just I don't know what I'm trying to say. When you're on a big stage, kickers, I mean, you miss 2 field goals and you got people in the practice facility. If you're, a rookie kicker or you're not, Vinatieri or Crosby or, Justin Turner and all these guys, I think he had the game to get him the job, although Robbie Gould is still going to be their option there.
Right.
But this goes on what we've been saying. Chase McLaughlin will have a job in the NFL.
Yeah.
He wanted, when Vinatieri retires or when people move away from Hauschka or Gostkowski decides to retire, eventually these teams are going to need a new kicker, and Chase McLaughlin is going to find himself a nice, cozy spot somewhere, and they're going to appreciate it because guy can hit kicks. Yeah, he misses that last one in overtime. That's also Seahawks magic. That's also the freaky Seahawks who get lucky in every primetime game they've ever played in. But that's just my 2 cents.
It's also kicker turnover. The Jets last year released a kicker who was a Pro Bowler and then went to some other team. I forget who he's on now. And is just drilling kicks week in and week out. I forget who it was, but it's there's so much kicker turnover. Even if you're pretty good, you potentially get released if you're maybe commanding too high of a salary,
Yeah.
and they try to go for someone cheaper. So Chase McLaughlin's going to be in the NFL.
Yeah. So, but that game shakes up not only the NFC wild card or not only the NFC picture, but I mean also the Niners join the ranks of everybody else. Everybody in the NFL has a loss. Things have plenty of variety. Niners 8-1, Seahawks 8-2, Rams 5-4, Cardinals 3-6. I don't think the Rams are making the playoffs this year. Not with the way that division is, and not with how good you're going to have to be a wild card team. With the Vikings at 7-3, and other teams that can look to make a run. I mean, do you guys disagree? Do you think there's any shot the Rams make the playoffs?
I would say no. I mean, they're just leaps and bounds behind Seattle and San Francisco.
Not only that, they still have to play. I mean, the Bears. I still think that's a winnable game for the Rams. Call me biased or whatever you want to call me, but I still think that's a winnable game for the Rams. Obviously, I know they lost to the Bears last year with how good this defense is, and if Nagy starts to figure out how to simplify his offense and make it more of that 4-minute offense. But even without that, Ravens, Seahawks, at Cowboys, at Niners, still all on their schedule, as well as 2 games against the Cardinals. But
that's tough.
That's really tough for a team that's sitting at about 500 right now and just lost a winnable game against the Steelers. You just can't drop. You can't drop games to the Bucs, and that's what the Rams did this year.
The Rams. I mean, to your Bears point, just really quick, I think that would be saying that the Rams have a chance at that game, and obviously everybody has a chance in every game in any sport.
Yeah,
but
shout out Dolphins, Colts.
Right. And the way, though, is the thing is that the Rams defense, the Rams last year couldn't get anything against the Bears defense, and this year the Rams offense is way worse.
Yeah.
They are getting nothing at all from Jared Goff, which in turn they're getting nothing at all from their running backs, and it's just all a domino effect. And the Rams are going to be without 2 of their starting offensive linemen on Sunday.
I think that's a big thing. Is the Rams
That's huge.
the Rams O line just isn't what it was last
Decimated.
year, and it just doesn't. It's impossible to
shows.
try to do what they did last year with the line they have right now. Rams 6.5-point favorites in that game.
Interesting. That's higher than I would have thought.
Me too.
Okay.
A division that kind of got shaken up this year, but also because the Panthers lost to my Packers. Shout out the 8-2 Packers. The Saints don't lose any ground. Saints are 7-2 after a weird loss to the Falcons. Panthers 5-4. I think that's the most clear who's winning that division. Panthers are 5-4, Bucks are 3-6, the Falcons are 2-7.
Yeah.
The Saints have just the complete package. They got a good O-line, they got a good hard-working defense, they got Drew Brees, and then they've got a receiver who's on pace to have the most receptions in a year ever by 10. That's what the pace he's on right now, and the yards he's on right now is 5th most ever in a season. Crazy. I mean, Michael Thomas is the man. I always forget he played at Ohio State because I don't even remember him being this force at Ohio State.
He was at Ohio State. Wow.
But maybe I'm just forgetting
Was that the Zeke years? So probably they weren't throwing as much?
Maybe, man. I don't know.
Probably.
He's a stud
Jeez,
though.
I forgot
I
he
think
was
that
at
division's
Ohio State.
wrapped. Even with the Saints losing this week to the Falcons, I think that's
Yeah.
I think that's the only division right now that I know who that division is the only one in the NFC I know who.
Yeah, I was
the
going
winner
to
is.
say.
Last division NFC: Cowboys, Eagles. Who do you think wins that? Giants 2-8, Redskins 1-8. Who do you think wins the NFC East? 'Cause I still believe in the Cowboys.
Yeah, I do too. I just think that Philadelphia is an inferior team at this point. I just think that even if you make it come down to a final week thing, Dallas just crumbles in the big moments.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Alex, Cowboys, Eagles.
Say Eagles because I just hate the Cowboys. The
Yeah.
Cowboys is just so.
I think the
Oh
Cowboys.
wait, hold up. Eagles play the.
I think the Cowboys need to get back to just feeding Zeke.
They play the Patriots, Seahawks. Ooh.
Yeah, they got a tough. they do have a tough.
Okay, Dolphins, Giants, Washington, and then Cowboys, and then Giants. Well, you know what? I'm gonna say Eagles. No.
Alex is psyching himself out.
Yeah.
I think the Cowboys need to
I
get back
really
to a
am.
ground and pound game because Zeke is still such a monster and he can do whatever to most front sevens as if they're not the Niners or maybe even the Steelers. But I mean that just depends. And I'm all in on Dak's contract here. This has been known.
Dude, that video was just marvelous.
Which video?
The one of him warming up.
Oh, his salsa
the
dance.
performance.
That was good.
The set to the music of Suavemente was hilarious.
Yeah.
Whew.
I watched that over and over.
We mentioned the NFC South is wrapped.
Ooh,
The
probably
other
would be the
division that is
Cowboys,
wrapped is the AFC East. I mean, the Patriots are the Patriots. They just had their bye. I'm sure Belichick yelled and screamed at them and figured out everything that went wrong against the Ravens, and they're going to retool and have plenty of things to do. Reminder, that was an away game. They still have half their home games remaining and only 3 more away games. So
They're fine.
They're very fine, even with the Bills sitting at 6-3 and right now in the AFC wildcard spot. I mean, they're going to take care of business. The Bills are going to come to Foxborough in that second game. Patriots are fine. They're 8-1. Bills 6-3. Currently third in the AFCs. The Miami Dolphins 2-game win streak, 2-7.
Wild.
They surprised the Colts, and they looked like a good team that game,
yeah.
which was wild. I also think goodbye Brian Hoyer. I mean, I think the Colts had the best possible quarterbacking core to have their starting quarterback retire because we talked about Jacoby Brissett was probably the best backup in the league, and then Brian Hoyer.
Well, they signed Hoyer, no?
I think that he was there. I think, maybe they signed him after Luck left.
Yes, I think that's what happened.
But even then, I mean, he's veteran that you've seen to win games. But in that
Yes.
game, he showed he just can't make the throws anymore. He's just not he just can't do that anymore.
Right.
Brissett practiced in full today, so he will be back for this upcoming week. Patriots are winning that division. I think the Bills right now could get in the wild card, but I don't think they're like a top 10 team.
I mean, who else? I mean, really, the only other team that they're competing with for a wild card would be
Steelers, Colts,
Steelers.
Raiders,
yeah.
and maybe Titans if they can figure that
Right,
out.
at 5-5 Titans. Oof. Ryan Tannehill's playing well.
He is. We'll go to the AFC South. Houston Texans 6-3, Colts 5-4, Titans 5-5, Jaguars 4-5. A sort of tight division, even though you feel like there's a large gap between the Texans, Colts, a little bit of a space, and the Titans and the Jaguars. I'm curious to see how the Jags look with Nick Foles because we haven't seen him since a beautiful bomb throw, and then he gets hurt on the exact same play in Week 1. Minshew Mania was there for a little bit, and then went away, and it was left in London. But I think the Texans, I mean, their O-line's getting a little healthier. Deshaun Watson's playing at a high level. If Will Fuller gets a little bit healthier, then their receiving core of DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, Kenny Stills, that's pretty impressive. Texans without J.J. Watt for the rest of the year, but Whitney Merciless, shout out the Illinois football team of 2013-14. He's playing well. They can figure things out there. I think the Texans still win the AFC West, especially after seeing,
AFC South.
Yeah, AFC South. Colts losing that game to the Dolphins.
That's tough.
That's pretty bad.
I still like the Colts, though. I'm still all in on Jacoby Brissett.
Team I'm all in on, Baltimore Ravens. They're 7-2, Steelers 5-4, Browns 3-6, Bengals still winless, 0-9. Yep, Alex was more in on the Ravens than we were at the beginning of the year. How you feel?
I feel good, man.
7-2,
really good.
7-2, just
really
decimated
good.
the Bengals in their game on Sunday. I like the way the Steelers look, though. 4-game win streak, and they're starting to figure out how to use Mason Rudolph, and that defense is tenacious.
Mason Rudolph, pretty good.
Mason?
Yeah, man.
I mean, when he's not getting his head ripped off.
Right.
But
I just wish Mason Rudolph was Duck, though, just so that you could talk about Duck consistently.
it's unfortunate.
What a name. And then the final division, and this is, I think, the one that's probably the most interesting. Chiefs 6-4, Raiders 5-4, Chargers 4-6, Broncos 3-6. The Chiefs lose an interesting game to the Titans. Patrick Mahomes looks great, but their defense went right back to the bane of his existence and the defense that we saw last year. And Mahomes isn't on pace for a 50-touchdown year this year. He still looks great, and his numbers are still comparable, not quite what they were last year because teams have a little bit more tape and kind of know what to expect and kind of know to not let him do what he did to them last year. But that defense looks the way that they looked. That's a bad loss. That's a bad loss because what the heck are you doing on that field goal when the holder decides to just pull it and throw it? Not only is it intentional grounding, so you lose yardage and time, but you didn't even attempt the kick that would have made that last drive irrelevant because it would have been more than an 8-point game. Mm-hmm. But instead, the Titans marched down the field, and yes, like you said, Ryan Tannehill looked really good. And the Titans, that's why I think the Titans still could be in that wild card conversation, but it's also the Titans. You never know what you're going to get week on week basis.
They'll go 8-8.
AFC West, though, Chargers beat both of our teams. The Raiders aren't going away. The Chiefs don't look like they have a strong grasp on that division.
How good does John Gruden look after trading away Khalil Mack, getting clowned, all the Antonio Brown stuff, getting just roasted all offseason, and now 5-4, 2-game win streak, his team looks pretty good. Mm-hmm. Still progressing. I mean, I don't think they're a playoff team, but still, they're clearly taking steps forward.
Way better than
it's wild.
Their schedule, though, Bengals, Jets. Chiefs is going to be a tough game. At home against the Titans, that could go either way. At home against the Jaguars, and they close at Chargers, at Broncos. It's a winnable schedule. And the way that the AFC West is beating up on each other right now, It's one of those things that you might get a 9-7 team getting into the wild card because of things. You might get a 10-6 team winning that division because of just where it's at right now.
If the Raiders go 9-7 or 10-6, that'd be bananas.
I mean, Bengals, Jets, I think are both.
Oh yeah. I mean, even Chargers, Broncos at the end. Chargers will probably be out of it by then. Broncos will definitely be out of it by then.
And that would give them 9 wins if we're counting Bengals, Jets. Right?
So if we're counting Bengals, Jets, and Broncos, Chargers,
That's 9 wins.
so if they win a toss-up, and then they still have Jaguars, Titans, oh my God.
That's a 10-win team right there. If they play to what they can.
That's
Dang,
wild.
that's
The team that already beat the Broncos, they beat the Colts in Indianapolis, they beat the Bears at home, and they beat the Lions. And yeah, that's
wow.
we shall see. We shall see. That's why I love the
Did
NFL.
Jacob be a 10-win team?
In a division that looked like it was nothing but the Chiefs, we got variety and variety and plenty of stuff going on, and that's the way that the NFL is. But that's going to do it for our show today. Thank you so much for listening.
Cy Youngs were announced.
Oh yeah, Cy Youngs were announced. Jake, learn us a thing or two. Give us our last baseball notes for the year, and then we'll get to it later on.
Hey, Jacob deGrom
Yep.
is your back-to-back NL Cy Young Award winner.
He's a
He
stud.
was unbelievable. I think I said that a couple weeks ago that I thought he should win, and that Scherzer might edge him out, but there was the chance that deGrom would be back-to-back, and that's just really cool. I mean, he's been awesome. He's had I think he's had a sub-2 ERA the last 2 years combined, and it's just, he's so dominant. If the Mets could just put a good team around him, please get this guy in the postseason. Like, even in a wild card game, I would love to see Jacob deGrom in a wild card game.
deserves
That
better.
would be awesome. So good for him. He is just so dominant. Many years of dominance to come from him. And then, kind of surprising in the AL, Garrett Cole losing the Cy Young. Justin Verlander winning it is very interesting to me. Cole was dominant. He had 327 strikeouts. He had an almost sub-2 ERA. Awesome in the postseason. Obviously, these votes get cast before the postseason, but he was still just so awesome. But Verlander was equally good. I think going in, this was a coin flip, and I think Verlander deserves it, and Cole now has that chip on his shoulder. If in his free agency meetings, he's going to say, all right, I didn't win the Cy Young, but come on. Right?
Yeah.
So he's going to say, now I'm going to go get one for you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's another bargaining chip for him either way.
Yeah. Cole Watch, no longer part of the Houston Astros, just to make sure that he was very clear about that after the
Yeah.
World Series. That man's going to get paid.
Yes, he
He
is.
gets so much money, dude.
But
Oh my God.
that, and anything else you want to make? I mean, what?
No,
Pete Alonso won Rookie of the Year.
Yes, he did.
And then Alvarez won Rookie of the Year with the Astros.
Yep, MVP is coming up tomorrow, I think.
Okay,
You
exciting
know what? I
stuff.
will say, had Tatis not gotten injured, I think he would have won.
Well, you can't win in 80 games, unfortunately.
All right, well, you know what, dude? I'm just saying, man.
Especially if it's the first half.
That's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for listening to Illini Drive. Make sure to check out the Tuesday, Thursday show that will be released tomorrow. But on behalf of Jake, Alex, and myself, thank you so much. You guys take care, and we'll see you next time.